When I began my career, I had no vision for myself. I made all the wrong choices based on very little information. I went with the flow. It was groupthink, I think. When I got married straight after my graduation, and I moved to California. And my first job there made me very nervous. I was a confident girl in Mumbai, but in California, it was a completely different thing. I was very shy and I was very socially awkward. So, what did I do? I sat at my desk and I buried myself in work. I wouldn't even look up to make eye contact with anyone. I pretended that I was really absorbed in my work. I would sit at my desk and I would just keep working. I would have my lunch also on my desk. I thought I was being very productive. And I was secretly quite pleased with myself because I was doing so much hard work. My boss, Joanna, called me after a few weeks. And I walked into her office thinking, oh, she's going to praise me because I'm such a diligent worker. But no, she was really concerned. Got to make friends. You're not going to last working the way you are. Please just make one friend. I don't want to lose you. You're being very productive, but you're not thriving. It was a real surprise for me. But I did listen to her, and I did go ahead and make a friend. And boy, did my life change. I was suddenly feeling so supportive. I would vent, I would discuss, I would gossip, but I had someone to talk to. I'd have lunches in the park outside the office, and I was so happy to go to work. My boss was a very, very wise woman. She realized that productivity is important, but thriving is even more important. My experience with Joanna wasn't what I experienced after that. The next few jobs were horrible. They were the concept of a toxic workplace. I worked with men and women who would talk over me, who would ignore me, who would disregard many of the suggestions I had. I once had a boss who didn't even make eye contact. He would keep looking at his papers while I was talking, as though I was talking to air. That's very, very demeaning if you've ever experienced it when you're talking to someone and they don't even look at you. My self-worth was taking a huge nosedive. I was dying 1,000 deaths. And I call them deaths by 1,000 tiny, tiny cuts because they're so small. These slides are so little that you don't notice them, but they really add up. And the imposter syndrome starts setting in. And you start feeling insecure and you start feeling really bad, but you don't know why you're feeling so bad. But because I'd had an experience like my boss and Joanna, I knew that I needed something different. I had seen something better. And she had also taught me, because that's what I did when I started with her. And so I knew I had to do something. I wasn't going to find my Joannas, I just had to figure it out myself. So I got myself a coach to help me understand what I was going through, why I was feeling such an imposter syndrome, why I was feeling so bad about myself, why was my self-worth so low. My coach literally became part therapist because I would cry so often when I was talking to him. But through that journey, I began to understand myself, my self-awareness. What were my strengths? What was my vision for myself? Something I'd never thought of before. What did I stand for? What did I believe in? It really helped me because, the reality is I still had to go back to that toxic work culture. I still had to go back to a patriarchal mindset. But I now knew how to cope. I had the courage to call it out. I had built the skills to negotiate, to find ways of coping, to soldier on. I had built my own self-care. I have now cut fast track to today. I am the CEO and founder of an organization which really builds leadership and capacity in the social impact space. And one of the most important programs for us is for mid-career women in the social sector. I feel very strongly about it. The social sector stands for equity, stands for justice, but the reality is that just like the corporate sector, women are not making it to the top. There is a huge leaky pipeline. 57% women enter the social sector at entry levels. Only 19% make it to the top. So we designed a program where we wanted to change that. We wanted to build women up so that they could see themselves as the leaders of tomorrow. We wanted to build their vision for themselves. We wanted them to understand themselves and negotiate, have the courage to call out. We started creating peer groups for them, a safe spaces where they could talk, share, exchange notes, and just feel comforted. We met when these women students first come to us. One of the first things we would do with them is understand their journeys, meet them where they are. So, what is their history? What are their values? What have they been struggling with? How can we help them individually? So, we would create individual development plans for them. And the whole plan was that they needed to learn to lead themselves, lead others, and then lead movements. So that was the design of the plan. We now, of course, have a huge group of women leaders who are in that program. And we meet very often, every couple of months, to talk about our journeys after the program. And it's so validating and inspiring because we talk about all the victories, small, small victories we've achieved, all the challenges we are still going through in this very patriarchal world, but we celebrate all of it. And I'll give you an example of a few of the women because this is our source of joy. This is the reason we exist. One of them, her name, I'll just call her Himmat. She actually was one of the youngest women to be nominated by her organization to come into the program. And she was very skeptical. She didn't know why she had been sent into this emerging women's leadership program. She didn't have enough self-belief in herself, and she had huge imposter syndrome. And through the program, through all the guides, the peer reviews, and all the interventions, her courage and conviction in herself grew. Cut to today, we heard that she's recently been promoted to deputy CEO of her organization. And she, the organization believed in her. The thing was that she needed to believe in herself. She has taken her role with a great deal of responsibility and rigor, and we are so proud of her. We had three other women who came from the same social purpose organization, which was helmed by another woman, remarkable woman leader. And they have actually gone back to their organization and set up leadership cells within their organization. They are saying, we are going to help women in the rural parts of our work to build their leadership. So this is their way of paying it forward. They are mentoring rural women to build their own dreams, to build their own self-awareness, and to really build their careers. And I love that. This is what we call the ripple effect. We have another woman who is actually realizing how much mental health issues there are in the country for young women. There is so much of pressure on women today, not only juggling the misogyny and the patriarchal mindset, but you're also juggling these notions of being a perfect mom, perfect partner, perfect daughter, and it's just hard. And she has started a mental health organization to support women in their mental health journeys. So we are delighted by the multiplier ripple effect that we are seeing these women experience through our program. I personally have, of course, a vision for myself, which I didn't have when I began, and which is really to help men and women achieve their full leadership potential. Well, be honest, I really want women to achieve their full leadership potential because I think women do tend to juggle a lot, hold themselves to much higher standards, and need a lot more nurturing and caring. The kind of nurturing and caring I received when I began my journey with Joanna. So I mentor young women. I never miss an opportunity to mentor young women if I get that opportunity. I'm currently mentoring a remarkable young woman, and I have to share her story because it inspires me so much. So she was born on a construction site. She was one of 8 children, the youngest, and there was no question, none of her siblings had ever been to school. They just never had the money. Survival was what they worked at. When she was very young, her older sisters told her parents, who were migrant workers, as you understand, they were laborers, to leave her behind in the village because they would look after her and let her have a chance at going to the village school. They said, we never got this opportunity, let her get it. She was a gifted child. And so as she grew, her village school teacher, realizing that there was potential in this young girl, applied for a scholarship in a very prestigious residential boarding school. And she made it. So now, 10-year-old young girl, and I'll just call her Shakti, she is now in this wonderful, prestigious boarding school, far away from her parents, far away from her village, obviously all by herself. But her leadership journey began there. She started doing well in her academics, she started focusing on her extracurriculars, and she started thriving. Cut to now she's in high school. She has to worry about who's going to pay for her scholarship for college, because quite frankly, her scholarship at school ends with high school. And COVID hit. So now she's back home giving her CBSE exams with one phone that is shared between all the family. And she doesn't know how she's going to apply for her scholarships to get into university. She doesn't know how she's going to give her exams. She doesn't even have enough electricity, and she's taking online classes. I have to tell you, Shakti topped CBSE in the nation. That's the kind of grit and determination she showed she has. She obviously got into a very prestigious fellowship program for her Delhi University studies. And that's where I was introduced to her. Of course, I must confess I was a little intimidated because she'd already done so much in her young life that just totally I was in awe of her. But she did struggle. She was a young girl in Delhi. She had social pressures. She had academic pressures. She was living independently. Her support system had sort of vanished. Her school wasn't there anymore. She wasn't in boarding. And I was her mentor. And of course, I was there to support her, as was the fellowship. But she did struggle. But she would come and meet me. Every month we meet. And she would tell me all that she was going through, all the challenges that she was having. But she never, ever complained. She shared, but she never complained. She was forever grateful because she knew that she had made it here serendipitously, but also with just grit and determination. She's a remarkable girl. I have seen her grow in the last 3 years, and she's built her vision for herself, which I will just share with you all. But my joy is that recently, I think 2 months ago, she spoke at a forum just like this about her journey. She spoke to young women saying, if I can do it, you can do it too. And that was amazing. She wants to study further and she wants to go abroad, but she wants to come back to India and focus on education and focus on gender so that her community back in East UP gets a chance to be a part of the education story. That's her story, and it's remarkable. When TEDx invited me to speak at this forum, I was deeply honored, but it was also coming at the back of some very challenging times for me personally. I had some very big meetings that I had to attend in the next week. But I paused and I reflected and I thought, this is such a huge opportunity for me. And if what I share can impact even one woman to reach out to other women and support them, then maybe this is really worth it. Why today and what do I want to talk about now? 2 steps forward. For women in India today, if you're not taking 2 steps forward, you're actually going backwards. We are 600 million women in India today. 600 million women in context is actually the 3rd largest country in the world. That's how big we are. But do we have equal voice? No. We have completely ceded space. We need to really show that we could be the powerhouse for this country. And there was a McKinsey report that said that if we achieve gender equity and gender parity, we could actually bring $770 billion to our GDP. That's the opportunity cost of bringing women back into the workforce. That's what we need to do now. My submission to all of you, all the women in the audience here today, please do start writing a vision for yourself and co-opt your friends, colleagues, daughters, sisters, anyone to be there with you to write the vision. And hold yourself accountable to that vision. Make your vision visible to yourselves and to each other, and practice your vision statement daily. Because if you have a vision for yourself, you will achieve it. Let all our collective leadership journeys begin today. Thank you.